extra?
Outlander. Come and trade. Did the wild reach you all over?
There's a body on the side of the trail. What happened here? It looks like he died quick. But what was he doing? My focus was showing more. These rocks look like they broke off from the cliff. Was he climbing when they gave way? That's another outpost. We'll have to find whoever's in charge and take them out. can catch my breath here. My husband's always done his fellowship. and get the goods I'm looking for. I'll have to go to another site.
Champion.
Well,
Well,
the lowlands
are
are
home
home to some of the most dangerous machines in the Forbidden West. You
you
should
should
consider
consider
visiting our hunting
grounds,
grounds, Southwestern.
Southwestern.
Get some
Get some
training in.
training in.
Maybe
Maybe
learn a
learn
new
a new
trick or two.
trick or two.
I'll
Oh,
keep it in mind when I'm out there. Thanks.
Thanks.
So you're welcome.
اه حصل.
previous 2 gear videos, we went over the best gear you can get in the early game, but there's no getting around the fact that the early game weapons and outfits are pretty weak, and you'll really start to notice this as you begin to encounter new and tougher machines in the Forbidden West. So of course, you're going to want to upgrade your gear pretty soon after leaving the Dawn, but with a lot of options and each one of them requiring various resources to upgrade, it can be tough to figure out what equipment you should be buying. And I think this is especially tough for a mid-game build, because you know you're going to be moving on to something better eventually, so you really don't want to feel like you're wasting your shards and resources on some blue weapon or outfit that you might not use for very long. But you guys are in luck, because I've done a pretty exhaustive evaluation of all the mid-game gear, and we're going to cover all the best options and my recommendations in this video. So let's get right into it. Let's start with your outfit. Now, if you guys watched my recommended early game gear upgrades video, then you know I recommended picking up the Nora Sentinel outfit as soon as you can. As I mentioned in that video, the Nora Sentinel is my top pick for a mid-game outfit. In Forbidden
Okay.
Champion. Won't you sit for a moment?
Karo's champion. You can pass. May your eyes be
Forbidden West, just like in Zero Dawn, outfits vary by their resistance stats to various types of damage. But I would argue the bigger differentiating factor in Forbidden West is actually the skill perks outfits now give you. I like the Nora Sentinel because you get a boost for the concentration and stamina regen skills. Concentration and stamina are essential parts of combat that you'll be using all the time, regardless of what weapon types you prefer. The outfit also boosts the Stealth Range Plus skill, which increases damage to enemies that are unaware of you, so basically that means your opening shot will deal more damage. Boosting all 3 of these skills is really nice, and that's the main reason the Nora Sentinel is my top outfit recommendation for the mid-game, but it also has good melee and range resistance once fully upgraded, as well as decent resistance for fire and shock. Now, it can be a bit difficult to upgrade because it requires Claw Strider and Spike Snout components, so you'll want to create jobs for getting those components and make it a point to upgrade the Nora Sentinel to get its full benefits. As with pretty much any outfit, I'd recommend putting at least 1 melee defense weave on it to boost that stat, and I'd go ahead and two on if you have them. Now I do want to give you guys a couple of alternate outfits for different playstyles. My runner-up is the Karja Shadow, which you can buy as soon as you get the Planeswalker. The Karja Shadow has very high melee resistance for a blue rarity outfit, with his stat going all the way up to 40 when fully upgraded. Its skill perks are focused on healing and defense, so this can be a good outfit if you find yourself taking a lot of damage or running out of medicinal berries often. Like the Nora Sentinel, a lot of damage or running out of medicinal berries. Now I do want to give you guys a couple of alternate outfits for different playstyles. My runner-up is the Karja Shadow, which you can buy.
Karja Shadow.
As soon as you get the Planeswalker.
What is that?
Tread carefully, Jake. The lowlands are dangerous.
It's not interesting.
Karja Shadow has very high melee resistance for a blue rarity outfit, with his stat going all the way up to 40 when fully upgraded. Its skill perks are focused on healing and defense, so this can be a good outfit if you find yourself taking a lot of damage or running out of medicinal berries often. Like the Nora Sentinel, it also requires Claw Strider components to upgrade along with Longwing and Snaplock components. You'll want to create jobs here as well to make sure you get the outfit upgraded quickly. Now if you're more of a stealth fighter, which I know many of you are, I would recommend the Utaru Harvester. This outfit gives boosts for low profile and stealth range plus to reduce your visibility to enemies and make it easier to deal damage from a stealthy position. It also boosts the weapon stamina plus skill, which will allow you to use weapon techniques more often. It also has decent melee and impact resistance, and as an added bonus, it's fairly easy to upgrade given that it only requires Skydrifter, Bristleback, and Lancehorn components, which are easier machines to take down. Okay, let's move on to your Hunter Bow. As you guys know, the default Hunter Bow is very weak, even when fully upgraded, and it gets very frustrating pretty quickly as you start to go up against tougher machines. An upgraded Hunter Bow is one of the first things you're going to want, and hands down, my top pick for this is the Sun-Touched Hunter Bow. I really like this bow for
Sun-Touched.
few reasons, and I'll tell you guys right now, you can use this even into the late game, so it's worth the investment. First off, it works similarly to a Hunter Bow from Zero Dawn, so there's a familiarity factor to it. What I mean by that is it has the same ammo types you're used to on a Hunter Bow. Regular and hardpoint arrows, which are now called Hunter Arrows and Advanced Hunter Arrows, and it has fire arrows just like a Zero Dawn Hunter Bow did. With its perks for critical hit chance and critical hit damage, it's also basically the strongest blue rarity Hunter Bow you can get, so it's a pretty clear choice here. Definitely pick up the Sun-Touched Hunter Bow as soon as you can. The earliest location you can buy this is in Plainsong, but you can also find it in Scalding Spear.
لا استنى
Created
شوي.
what? Outlaw.
في عندي
Hey, stranger. Are you looking to trade?
آه.
Moving on to our next weapon, we want to start building out our arsenal of elemental ammo types, and I always prefer to do this with bows instead of other weapons for two reasons. First, arrows are the cheapest ammo in the game, using just shards, ridgewood, and green rarity elemental resources to craft, so you'll pretty much never be hamstrung by running out of rare resources like blast paste and metal bones. And second, elemental arrows allow you to hit corresponding canisters on machines to trigger elemental explosion.
طيب خلينا احنا خلينا نشوف بس اجيب هذا الثالث.
Which is a powerful and important combat tactic. For example, hitting a blaze canister on a fire bristleback with a fire arrow. So, our next bow is going to be the Frost Hunter Bow, which gives us access to both frost and acid arrows. Both of these elemental damage types are important in Forbidden West. You'll use the Frost Hunter Bow all the time, both to hit freeze and acid canisters, as well as build up the poison and frozen states by hitting machines directly. Both of those states make it easier to deal damage to many machines. I would recommend loading this bow up with your best frost coils to boost that stat as far as you can. In my opinion, freeze is more important than acid. The earliest location you can buy the Frost Hunter Bow is at the Hunter Merchant along the path you follow during the Death's Door main quest, but you can also buy it in Plainsong a bit later. Up next.
Plainsong.
Where'd you get that cord? Neat.
وصلت لتر شمال.
Durable, dependable, only good.
Let's trade.
That should help you next hunt.
Land behind you.
So in my mid-game gear video, I showed you guys what I think are the optimal mid-game weapons and outfits. First, we picked up the Nora Sentinel outfit, and then we went over 4 bows that form the core of your mid-game loadout. We had 3 Hunter bows, with the Sun-Touched Hunter bow giving us access to hardpoint arrows for dealing damage, as well as fire arrows. The Frost Hunter bow lets us use frost arrows, which is a very important elemental ammo, and also acid arrows, which many machines are vulnerable to. Then we also had the Purgewater Hunter bow, letting us use the new Purgewater element, as well as acid arrows, which, I admit, are a bit redundant since we already have them on the Frost Hunter bow, but it does give us an opportunity to mod the Purgewater Hunter bow for stronger acid damage while leaving the Frost Hunter bow modded to maximize freeze damage. Finally, our 4th bow was the Cleaving Sharpshot bow, which is one of only 2 bows in the whole game that give you access to Tear Blast arrows, which I think are very important. And because it's a Sharpshot bow, it also of course allows us to use the Brace Shot skill, which is a weapon technique I heavily rely on, especially for taking down big machines like Tremor Tusks and Shell Snappers. Now, I really do think that those 4 bows have you covered like 90% of the time. So for the final 2 weapon slots, I gave you guys my recommendations for weapons from each weapon category that you can experiment with. But I also understand you probably want to have some more definitive choices for those last 2 slots. To be totally transparent with you guys, I think the best options for those slots aren't really what I'd consider mid-game weapons. So I think they fit better in this video, where we're going to cover 3 additional bows you should strongly consider as you transition from the mid-game to the late game. And by the way, just so we're all on the same page, I consider the mid-game to be roughly from the time you discover your base through completing all 3 of the quests that branch off from that point. If you've gotten to your base, you'll know what I'm talking about. I just don't want to spoil anything major if you haven't got there yet. But either way, you're definitely going to want to settle in for this video because we've got some great weapons to go over that will give you a leg up in the mid-game and set you up nicely for a late game and even end game loadout. Okay, so I want to start with the most important of the 3 bows we're going to cover, the Lightning Hunter bow. Now, if you guys watched my mid-game gear video,
Hindi ako para tinig.
you know one of my biggest frustrations with the early and mid game is that there's literally no option for a good shock bow. To me, this is a problem because shock is a very important elemental damage type. Unlike the other elements, shock will actually stun and completely immobilize a machine for a period of time, which allows you to easily position yourself to tear off components or deal damage to weak spots. Now, the most efficient way to shock a machine is to hit a shock canister with a shock arrow to trigger an elemental explosion. For example, this is an excellent strategy for long legs, which have shock canisters on their backs. You can hit a shock canister with just a single shock arrow, stun them, and then while they're immobilized, you can easily tear off components like the wing burners that you need for upgrades. Shock is also very effective against bigger machines like Fireclaws that also have shock canisters. However, to actually pull off hitting a shock canister with an arrow, you need a pretty accurate bow. The only shock bow you can get early on is the free green Shock Warrior bow, which you can pick up from the Dawn Hunting Grounds. But a warrior bow just isn't going to cut it because it's not nearly accurate enough. What we want is a hunter bow that can shoot shock arrows, and believe it or not, there's only 2 bows in the entire game that can do this. Now, one of those is the Death Seeker's Shadow, which is a gold weapon you can only get by playing the arena and amassing 80 arena medals. So, to get the Lightning Hunter bow, you need to complete the Need to Know side quest, where you help Talana find her missing friend. Now, to give you fair warning, this is a fairly challenging side quest with a couple of big machines you need to take down, but you will have some help, and if you need to, there's no reason you can't turn the difficulty down a notch or 2 if you're getting really frustrated. However you end up handling it, I would highly recommend everyone do this quest to get the Lightning Hunter bow before heading into the late game. And let's define the late game as anything after the Seeds of the Past main quest. So if you're near that point or past it, then you should definitely be looking to go do the Need to Know side quest to get the Lightning Hunter bow and slot it in as your 5th standard mid-game weapon. So taking a closer look at the Lightning Hunter bow, we can see it gives us Hunter bow. Now, if you guys watched my mid-game gear video, you know one of my biggest frustrations with the early and mid-game is that there's literally no option for a good shock bow. To me, this is a problem because shock is a very important elemental damage type. Unlike the other elements, shock will actually stun and completely immobilize a machine for a period of time, which allows you to easily position yourself to tear off components or deal damage to weak spots. Now, the most efficient way to shock a machine is to hit a shock canister with a shock arrow to trigger an elemental explosion. For example, this is an excellent strategy for long legs, which have shock canisters on their backs. You can hit a shock canister with just a single shock arrow, stun them, and then while they're immobilized, you can easily tear off components like the wing burners that you need for upgrades. Shock is also very effective against bigger machines like Fireclaws that also have shock canisters. However, to actually pull off hitting a shock canister with an arrow, you need a pretty accurate bow. The only shock bow you can get early on is the free green Shock Warrior bow, which you can pick up the Dawn Hunting Grounds, but a warrior bow just isn't going to cut it because it's not nearly accurate enough. What we want is a hunter bow that can shoot shock arrows, and believe it or not, there's only 2 bows in the entire game that can do this. Now, one of those is the Death Seeker's Shadow, which is a gold weapon you can only get by playing the arena and amassing 80 arena medals. So, to get the Lightning Hunter bow, you need to complete the Need to Know side quest, where you help Talana find her missing friend. Now, to give you fair warning, Moving on to our next bow, I also want to make sure you guys know about the Glow Blast Sharpshot bow. Now this one is a direct upgrade for your cleaving Sharpshot bow. Interestingly enough, just like we only had 2 hunter bows that could fire shock arrows and 2 that could fire purge water, we also only have 2 bows that can shoot tear blast arrows. Your cleaving Sharpshot bow is one, and the Glow Blast Sharpshot bow is the other. Tear blast arrows, which are actually now called tear precision arrows, are really important for fighting some of the toughest machines in the game. Because of their super high tear damage, having access to these arrows will allow you to rip off valuable components, armor plates, and weapons like rocket launchers on Tremor Dust and Shell Snappers. So these arrows can really tip the scales in your favor, and I think they're very important to have in your standard loadout. The Glow Blast bow will give you access to the strongest tear blast arrows in the game, so I think it's worth buying and upgrading for that alone. But it also gives you access to some very strong precision arrows. In my previous 2 gear videos, we went over the best gear you can get in the early game, but there's no getting around the fact that the early game weapons and outfits are... Up next, we're going to pick up the Purge Water Hunter bow to add Purge Water arrows to our elemental lineup. Now, Purge Water is a new elemental damage type, but it works just like all the others you're familiar with, like Frost and Fire. Certain machines are weak to Purge Water, and you'll want to either build up what's called the Drenched State by hitting them enough with Purge Water arrows, or, if they have one, you'll be able to hit a Purge Water canister to trigger an elemental explosion. For example, Snap Moths have this canister on their neck. The Purge Water Hunter bow is your best option for dealing Purge Water damage for quite a while through the mid-game, so you'll definitely want to have this bow in your loadout. Now, it also gives you access to Acid Arrows, which is a bit redundant since we already have Acid Arrows on our Frost Hunter bow, but if you want to, you can make the Purge Water Hunter bow primarily an acid bow by loading it up with acid coils, while your Frost Hunter bow is loaded up with freeze coils. This is actually what I did, since I found myself running into machines weak to acid more often than machines weak to Purge Water. Plus, you'll still be able to trigger Purge Water explosions by hitting those canisters even if you don't buff the Purge Water damage stat. So in my opinion, acid coils are the best way to mod the Purge Water Hunter bow. You can pick up this bow in the Tanakh settlement of Scalding Spear. Switching gears to a different weapon
You have to find it is the eye of the air. There.
In my previous 2 gear videos, we went over the best gear you can get in the early game, but there's no getting around the fact that the early game weapons and outfits are pretty weak, and you'll really start to notice this as you... So of course, you're going to want to upgrade your gear pretty soon after leaving the Dawn, but with a lot of options, switching gears to a different weapon category, we're definitely going to want an upgraded Sharpshot bow. Luckily, we'll be able to get one for free simply by moving forward with the main storyline, without spoiling any major plot points. Once you gain access to your base, I would recommend going with the lowest level choice so you can begin the Broken Sky quest. Early in this quest, you'll be given the Cleaving Sharpshot bow, which is actually
already حطيت طبعات شنو احنا بدك اياه للنار صح؟ هو سانتاتشت خلينا نشتغل شوي الله قديش 19
الهباء يدفعني.
معسكر أسرع.
ماذا يفعلون؟ العبقرية في العمل هنا. لا أريد أي ملهيات. إن احتجت خردة يمكنك. صيادة. أجل، جيد. تمنيت أن يكون صياد. لا وقت لتضييعه. إيلون. الخنزير العجوز كيروف يتوقع مني صنع أفضل درع من الغرب المحظور. لكن أنا باندا سأعطيه تحفة وستساعديني في صنعها. بالطبع سيتم تعويضك على الرغم من أن رؤيتي أعمى سترضيك كثيرا.
أنت من أفراد كيروف؟ تنافسين لصنع درع من أجله؟ بوجود تيمات بالقرب.
لديهم مشاكلهم ليقلقوا بشأنها. وأيضا أنا أصنع درعا وحسب، بل عملا فنيا كذلك. عمل مشبع بعظمة الروبوتات القديمة والقطع الأثرية، ممزوج بمتانة قرن الحرافة اللطيف.
تريدين أن يحتوي درعك على أردت أجزاء الروبوتات القديمة لأجل درعك؟ سأطلع على التفاصيل. تحدثت عن استخدام قرن الحرف. تحدثت عن قطع فنية.
أستشتري أجزاء أو تريدين بيع بعضها؟ لا شيء يثير اهتمامك إذن.
علي قراءة الكود مع أول فرصة لأعرف ما سأفعل بالضبط.
انتظر هنا. سأحتفظ بالمخزون الإضافي وأستخدمه لاحقا. يتصبب يخيل مؤخرا الذي رأيته معنا هنا
لدي شيء يتجاوز فيه.
مورلاند وقاطبه لديهم موقع تنقيب رائع. فكرت في إلقاء نظرة في أحد هذه الأيام.
أثق أنه بالأرجاء. يجب علي أن أقوم بزيارة لأعرف ما يخطط له مورلاند. أكل شيء بخير يا بولاف؟
رفيقتي الصلباء، انظري. صندوقي. حطمت محطم الصخور في النفق. بحث طاقمي في المكان ووجدوا هذا في العربات. ورثته عن أمي الحبيبة.
تعرف مكان مرسى. سأزوره. مستعدة الآن لأي شيء. سعيدة بفضل ممر قاعدة. ذلك رائع.
ممر سري؟ لا تقولي هذا وإلا سوف الكثير من هذا.
ومن هذا رجل مستكشف القافلة. قال أما إسكانه
انضم إلى رحلة الاستكشاف قبل أن نعرف. بعد أن وصلنا للمخيم خرجت لأستكشف. قدمت أيضا قراراتنا مقابل الناظرين في سلام. طلب مني أن أدرس القصية بمكان اسمه
على
عرفت أنه مكان يأخذ هناك إليه الجنة. مكان بقرب قسطنطين عاصمة عجيز. سرعة خرج للبحث عنه.
بمفرده
حاول تحضير قد أصر.
شكرا روبرت للمساعدة.
آمل تجد.
حسنا مستنقع الأشواك أراك منتظر. ماذا؟ أنت تنوين الذهاب إلى أطراف أرض تينات للبحث عنه بلا تردد. أجل إنه وحيد في الغرب المضيء وقلقتنا أكبر من ذلك. سألقاك عند عاصمة السهل، لكن ستخبرينني من هو أماره.
حسنا، سأتسلل شمال القرية. أردت منك.
السيد الأول.
I got news for you guys.
Ah ja, Kantonel.
Could use food instead. Gently. I guess fireflies are terrorizing the Forbidden West, too.
Thornmarsh. Quite a sight, isn't it? Never thought I'd find myself this deep into Nuff territory.
Have you run into any trouble?
I've been keeping my head down. Had to duck into the swamps a couple of times to avoid Tanakh patrols.
Well, I'm here now. So spill it. Who is Amadis, really?
We met out in the wilds after I was wounded on a hunt. He healed me, then helped me put a stop to a hunter-killer machine that was threatening a nearby village. At first, he thought I was just another hunter from the woods who cared about the biggest machine trophy. And I thought he was just a grouchy hermit living in the woods. But then he trusted me with the truth. Told me how the Red Raids took everything from him. Seeing that side of him, I don't know, changed things.
You
يلا
love her,
يلا بس دقيقة شوي.
don't you?
5 دقايق.
Yeah. Then why did you part ways?
When he told me how he failed to save the woman from his past, I told him how I made peace with my father and brother's deaths. He realized he needed to do the same on his own.
Wait. When we searched that Red Raids battlefield together, you said he'd lost someone close to him. I thought you meant a fellow soldier.
She was. Women are allowed to serve in the Persia army, but Nessa disguised herself so she could. Amadis kept a secret. When he left to come out west, he promised he'd send word that he was alright, but his letter never came.
So you set out to find him.
And when we do, I'll have words for him leading us on this wild goose chase.
Well, at least I kind of understand now. Amadis thought Nessa died on the battlefield, but when he learned that the Tanakhs took prisoners back west, he kept going. So I guess now he's found his prison, the Rot.
I did some scouting while I was waiting. I think I might have found the way.
Lead on. Do you think Nessa missed